And then the...
It's like I'm writing an Adam Sandler movie. It's like, set up a joke and then fart noise.
And then Kevin James shows up and it gets better.
And then Rob Schneider shows up and does something super racist.
I guess welcome back to Cartridge Based Radio.
Hey.
How you doing, Brad?
I'm alright, how are you?
Not bad. Like I just said, we are hosts, Brad and Donald. We are magnificently handsome individuals on the radio.
One of these days we're going to set up like a little bonus thing for our fans where we'll put up some video clips of us doing this show, and then we'll see who agrees with you.
If some people email in and say it enough, we will do one of these live on Google Hangout, and they can come be the studio audience, and it will be grand. Get to see all the stuff that gets left on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, it'll be really grand because the last time we tried to do this through Google Hangout, we couldn't get a connect. We got video but no audio, and then we got audio but no video, which should have been fine for a podcast.
We played Pathfinders this weekend, and Google Hangout was just being the biggest brat. It crashed 3 times. A couple times it was like, hey, that microphone you have, I don't like it anymore. And then they're yelling at the other end, we can't hear you. It's like, we can hear you, but us telling you that is pointless because you're saying you can't hear us. Google Hangout. It works better on phones for some reason. Not those old-fashioned computers.
What doesn't work better on a phone?
Typing fast.
Hey, I can type super fast with my phone. It just looks like I picked words at random out of a dictionary.
My thumbs are too big, and they hit each other, and then they engage in Mortal Kombat over things, and then periods start appearing. I'm not good with the phone typing. But
Swipe is convinced that every time I try to write the word for, I'm writing about fir trees. It just must think that I'm a lumberjack or something, because every single time it's, he's talking about fir trees again, FIR.
Maybe it's trying to tell you that you need to change your career. All this desk work, you could be out in nature, tearing nature down.
You know, I do enjoy being around trees. Maybe I would really enjoy destroying them.
What isn't better when you're just not destroying it? Nothing.
There are a few things that don't get better by destroying it. Trees, apparently. Cars, as we've learned from both Street Fighter and Final Fight. Marriages, probably. Give me a couple weeks. I'll let you know for sure. I'm making my wife listen to this podcast, so that's a real test right there.
That might do it. Can I just say live on the mic, sorry, you have to listen to us? I said, hey, do you want to listen to this? And my wife's like, not really.
The trick is not to give her a choice. You just get in the car and plug in the iPod and be like, hey, I'm going to put on some tunes. And then you put on the podcast. And you're like, I'm going to stare at you as you listen to my podcast. Gauge whether or not you're really enjoying it.
Oh, I think you might have jumped a shark a little bit there. She listens to me edit it. So she hears all the stuff that doesn't make the final cut. So...
Oh, that's really rough. Yeah, for the listeners who are only getting to enjoy the final product, this show in its raw form is terrible. It is the worst thing you've ever heard. And it is a miracle of audio engineering that Donald's able to put it together into something that kind of sounds listenable.
We tend to go off track, which we recently discussed. I save those off-track rants that we get on. And we will eventually have a show where we just introduce the segments and you get to hear us talk about how we pre-ordered Wind Waker just to get the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time special edition and then just didn't pick up Wind Waker.
I feel pretty smart about that decision.
Speaking of which, a bunch of GameStops are going to close, so I have no idea how that happened.
Yeah, well, I mean, Christmas was 3 months ago, but I'll take it.
We're going to talk about a video game. I might have one in mind.
Did you have one in mind, Donald?
Let's talk about Doom, Brad.
I do not like this game called Doom, Brad. It sounds terrible and dangerous.
It's where I chase you through the forest where your hands are tied behind your back and I have a machete.
Yeah, I don't like...
Doom, Brad. Only one of us wins and it's me.
The title kind of gives it away.
Yeah. Don't worry, you get to go in the second round if you don't die.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's fair. No, we're going to talk about Doom, the PC game that's been ported. I think I just saw someone running it on a microwave, so it's officially been ported everywhere. But more importantly, we're going to talk about, well, Doom. Not like, this is level design, whatever. Everyone's played Doom. How exactly did this Marine get in this situation?
Doom doesn't really open with a lot of the story. I think probably it was included in the instructions of the game back then. As I remember it, they build a base on the moon, and that opens a gate to, Mars, and then they build a base there, and it opens up a gate to Hell, which is kind of an escalation.
No, I think the whole thing takes place on Phobos. So the gate is there.
Okay, so for those of us who aren't dorks, Phobos is...
a moon of Mars.
Okay.
When you didn't pay attention in school, that's when you would have picked up that information.
Hey, I went to a Buffalo public school. We didn't have time to learn about space or how engines work or gravity.
Did you just spend your science class learning about how New Jersey and New York aren't as good as Buffalo? This is not a good use of our education.
They taught us how to calculate the area of a rhombus, which is information that I use literally every day. They didn't teach us how to budget or pay bills or anything everyday life stuff. But if you need to know, how much liquid you could put into a cone, I can figure that out for you.
Maybe they just figured out since you lived in Buffalo, you didn't need to know all that stuff because you most likely were just going to freeze to death one winter.
My entire 6th grade year, we just learned how to hunt seals and skin them and build shelters out of discarded garbage from the people who were driving through on their way to a better city.
Did you hear that? It was our one Buffalo fan turning off the show. As far as plans go, they never really touch on what is the plan for opening a gateway to Hell on Mars.
Yeah, was that on purpose? Did they show up and they're like, well, we got this sweet ass base on Mars. I guess what we could do is we'll build a portal to Hell.
Later Dooms tried to get a story going, and the most recent new Doom did a pretty good job, but it's fully tongue-in-cheek. And the new ones, it's alternative energy sources. And they're using Hell energy, for the betterment of mankind. The only side effect is Hell keeps escaping Hell. Oops.
They probably don't like being there because it's Hell. So I imagine they would probably be pretty eager to get out to nicer planets.
Yeah, if I was in Hell, I would say, hey, look, a gateway to Phobos. I'm just going to pop through. But then there's a psycho running around just drilling all your friends. And you're like, hey, man, be chill.
We're just trying to not be in Hell. It's terrible there. There's Chewbacca's everywhere, and they throw fire at you. And
the imps are like, hey, we just crossed the portal because we're looking for a TJ Maxx. We'd like to get some nice board shorts. Our stuff is just hanging out. And then you shoot them in the face. It's like, that's cruel.
That actually is the customer service handbook at TJ Maxx. Is if someone comes in the store, shoot them in the face. Because that's not supposed to happen. The store is designed to repel customers.
Now, are these just everyday customers or furry imp guys throwing fireballs?
I would imagine that those are the only customers that would even consider going into a TJ Maxx.
I've driven by a TJ Maxx. That's the most. I just pulled that name out of a hat. I don't know, but I don't know if I've ever been in a TJ Maxx.
It could have just this close have been the Gap or Old Navy or a Ross Dress for Less, but you decided to go right after the TJ.
Again, we are very smart men of science and education. How would you go about marketing Hell Energy?
Probably as a drink. It would probably sell like crazy to the 13 to 18-year-old demographic. Hell Energy,
drink hell.
But as a energy source, they say that a big part of energy is just getting it from one point to another. Either the materials or the actual electricity. The hardest part is the infrastructure to, have the energy in one place and get it to where it's needed. And I gotta think that, the hell or the moons, hell via the moons of Mars seems like a really long way to go to get electricity.
And how much energy are they using to sustain the portal to hell to extract the hell energy?
Probably quite a bit. I got to think that the energy source in hell is probably geothermal energy, like all that heat and brimstone or whatever. I don't think that's the highest output energy. I don't think, you'd probably be better off with like a nuclear plant. And if you have space technology and you have the ability to transport this energy across space, you could just put a whole bunch of nuclear plants up on the moon, and it would be fine. They could melt down and be like, whatever, it's the moon. It sucks anyway.
Then there's the matter of the BFG 9000, which is a small nuclear device in its own. Why didn't we just use the energy cells for that thing to, power New Jersey or LA for 12 months? It's like, oh, we need this to fight the demons that we brought through the gate in the first place. Yikes.
This kind of is beginning to sound like some kind of a government make-work program where they just find the least efficient ways to create energy because it generates a lot of jobs. And then all of a sudden you can't get rid of it because there's all these people who are like, that's my job depends on that. So, it becomes entrenched and, corporate welfare.
My job depends on hell being let loose in the Earth realm. You can't take it away. There would be groups fighting to keep hell on Earth in order to keep the jobs. Like, no sense there. Just, hey, yes, this zombie man did eat my family, but we cannot lose these jobs.
Yo, Big Hell just has so many lobbyists that you just can't stop them. Democrats, Republicans, they'd all be on board with Big Hell's agenda. There'd be like some little third party with like 10 people voting for it. They're like, we should probably not have a gate to hell.
Hey guys, we took a poll, we got together, it was okay, don't worry about it, but we did decide maybe hell on Earth is a bad thing. And then Big Hell's like, says who? Look at all these happy people over here. They're quarantined because they're undead. Well, they seem happy to me.
What are you going to do, go back to solar?
Oh, wait, I have their campaign slogan, feel the burn. I think I just dated the show for whoever's listening to it in the past.
You actually put a trick date on it because they're going to think it's from like 6 months ago from right now. So this is a tricky show. People will be listening to like, did they record these out of order?
Probably, because I'm the one in charge of keeping track of what went where before we post it. So, it's a roll of a dice, people.
So to get back to 1993 Doom, which was the original intent of the show, you start off on the Mars base, I think, and that's episode 1 or whatever, and then you go through all the levels and you end up in hell, I believe, like fighting demons in hell. And
Hell looks a lot like all the other textures in the rest of the game.
yeah, well, the one thing I noticed is that one of the Hell levels takes place in a warehouse. So this must be where Satan keeps all his Satan things that he needs in this warehouse. And it truly is the warehouse from Hell, because none of the boxes are labeled. They all look the same. There's no shelves. I worked at a factory once, and I had to go down to the warehouse a lot to do inventory and stuff. So, that place was organized, but this Hell, like, they just lay the boxes out and create a maze. There's no pallets, so you can't use a forklift to pick anything up. And, like, imps are throwing fire at you, and everything's probably flammable.
Can you think of a more delicious hell to send someone to? You have to work in the warehouse where nothing is labeled. There's no shelving, no forklift, no pallets, and Jerry's going to throw fireballs at you just like all day long. You're like, stop it, Jerry. And he's like, isn't this funny?
If you work in a warehouse in your life, that's your job, your occupation, and you're a sinner, you spend the afterlife in this warehouse, just wandering this maze, looking for a box that you're never going to find, while Chewbacca throws fireballs at you.
And when you think you do find the box, you look down at your work order and it's changed on you. You're like, oh, come on. And Satan gets on the loudspeaker. He's like, ha. And then some crazy space marine comes running by and just shoots you. And you're trying to do inventory and you're dead again.
Probably none of the whatever's in the boxes are even grouped together. So you gotta go all the way across the warehouse floor to the other side, dodging monsters.
I worked in a warehouse that was a lot like that once. It was a imports from China place, like crappy plasticware with popular cartoon characters on it. And I think it was organized by someone who was mid-stroke. They're laying on the side of their desk drooling, but they're so committed to their job, they're laying out the warehouse at the same time. That was a hell job.
Alternate theory, the warehouse was actually laid out by one of the level designers of Doom. They made all this money on Doom, and they're like, I got enough money, I can do anything I want for the rest of my life, and what I want to do is design terrible warehouses.
I almost got ran over so many times in that warehouse. It was ridiculous.
Oh.
And speaking of crappy jobs, what kind of job description is Space Marine?
Well, I mean, it's like the regular Marines, but, in space.
But that is some high level, we're writing in the future, so we're just going to add space in front of everything. That means there's a Space Navy, a Space Army, a Space Coast Guard.
I think right now space is mostly considered the realm of the Air Force. Things change in the future.
I thought it was the realm of Elon Musk.
Well, yes.
Because he's going to own that first.
He's the guy that's going to be setting up these power plants in Hell. You imagine the bureaucracy that you'd have to go through to set up a business in Hell? Like, it's just going to be all forms, and they're going to need all kinds of other forms, and you'll have to stand in a line.
And I bet the offices in Hell are just pure hell to deal with. They're like, take a number. What number did you get? 95. Oh, we're on negative 4 billion. We have to get back to zero. And you're like, oh, come on. If you leave, you lose your spot. Oh, come on.
I'm just going to run down on my lunch break and file these permits for my power plant in Hell. And you get there, it's like, oh, we're closed from 12 to 1 when people might actually come here because we're the bureaucracy from Hell. And
when you hand an imp your paperwork, it just bursts into flames and it's like, you didn't fill this out correctly.
The imp just looks at you and is like, Rrr!
And then once you do get the forms all filled out and you've got your crew down there, they're just going to keep getting murdered by the creatures in Hell. Like a pink demon's just going to run by and bite Joe from, structures right in half. And you're like, oh, he had a wife and kids and they're lovely people. They're going to be mad at me.
They're going to be so angry and probably feel like they should have seen this coming when Joe took a job in hell.
Baby, I know we don't have much money, but I can just go to hell for a couple weeks and we're going to make like $350,000 and we will be set for a while. And she's like, I'm nervous about it. Just promise you don't get bit in half. Don't worry, baby. I'm careful. And then 5 minutes in, he gets bit in half. And the last thing he thinks was, oh, she was right. Definitely right.
There's all these workplace safety signs with like pictures of pink demons and they're like crossed out.
They have like those safety tutorials, like how to survive a bear attack. Like, if you see a pink demon, just lay down and act dead and hope it doesn't step on your head.
Be sure to wear a hard hat.
Forget about the ones that can cloak. You're sitting in the bathroom taking a pee and you hear this rah, rah, like, oh no.
That would be the other thing about working at the power plant in hell is almost every level in Doom has like secret areas that you have to find a button or a switch or, you know, something triggers them to open up, and they're full of monsters. And you hear the monsters the whole time until you know, do whatever it takes to open up that area. So while you're working at the hell power plant, like all day long, you're just gonna, like, behind the wall, you just hear like, and that's gonna get old quickly.
Hey, Bill, did you got your chainsaw? No, I had to leave it behind a wall full of demons. I really love my chainsaw. And then later on, Doom Guy comes by and he's like, oh, sweet, a chainsaw. There's just lots of problems with a hell power plant in hell.
Yes, it's not the best plan that they could have come up with.
And then once you've collected the energy, you're going to have to load it onto a ship and send it back to Earth, which is more power you're consuming to get power.
Well, maybe with the portals, you know, if there's a way to transmit the energy just through the portal that got them to the base or whatever. I'm still not entirely clear on the physics how this all works.
That has to be a hard pitch, though, because, like, okay, we want to open this portal so we can instantly send the energy to Earth. This sounds good. This is the same kind of portal we accidentally, and he totally air quotes accidentally, brought hell, another air quote, onto Phobos. And, like, well, what's the dangers of hell escaping on Earth? You know, it won't happen. We're pretty sure it won't happen.
Well, you know, we got a saying up here, and it's, let Kentucky try it first. And if it doesn't kill all of them, then we'll try it here in this state.
I mean, it's Wisconsin. What else are we going to do here? Demons get loose in Wisconsin, nobody will notice because the population is like 45 people.
You know, I mean, really, if you opened up a portal to hell, and then hell managed to escape and take over Phobos, that'd be okay. You know, you'd be more interesting to go there, you know, fly a satellite past it or something and take some pictures. It's when it starts coming to Earth that you really have a problem. Like, the solar system's just full of empty land masses that you could just dump demons off on and it would be fine.
You absolutely can just write Phobos off in the loss column at the end of the year's budget. Like,
yeah.
Oops, we lost Phobos. Yeah. Can't go there. And if it's still like transmitting its energy that it's drawing from hell off of it and you're collecting with satellites, that's a win.
Yeah.
Sure, you got one crazy space marine running around down there shooting things. You put a GoPro on that dude, you have a hit reality YouTube show.
For like 10 seconds.
And then it just gets real grisly. Of course, I bet people would log in just to watch the GoPro footage of it laying there sideways. Just to see if something crosses the field of view.
I don't know if this was in every version of Doom, but some of them, after you died, as long as you didn't hit a button, it would essentially do that. You'd have like a camera view from the ground. And so, yeah, I mean, people probably watch that in the game, so I'm sure they would sign up to watch a live stream of just like dead guy.
Like 9 hours in, you see his thumb twitch, and everyone's like, he's still going. He can do this.
People are watching, they're like, oh, still more entertaining than esports.
There's just so much. Like, why did we send Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson? Why? He's a national treasure. Why would we send him to Phobos?
You want it taken care of, right?
Yeah, but what if he gets hurt? Then we don't have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Do you seriously think Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson can be hurt?
You're right. They would see Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson land, and Satan would be like, oh, whoa. Hey, everyone, come back through the portal. We are going to shut the portal from our side because Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's here. And just as they're about to get it shut, he jumps through the portal and he's like, I'm here with you. And Satan's like, everyone to Phobos, come on.
This is going to be awesome.
I mean, if I had a professional wrestler I would vote Kane, because I think he thinks he's a demon. So he would be pretty down with everything that's going. Just walking around in his gimp mask.
I don't know that Kane the guy thinks he's a demon. I think it's a character. Maybe.
What I know of professional wrestling is whatever their character is, I'm convinced that's who they think they are.
It must have been really confusing at times when you're like, this cowboy is fighting a barber. And I don't know why that would happen. And now an IRS agent has run in and he's beating both of them up. This is really confusing.
You could have just described an actual altercation, because the cowboy went to a barber and the barber accidentally clipped his cool mustache that curls at the end. And so they get into a fist fight. And of course the IRS is going to come in and start beating up the small businessman. That's America.
Yeah, I was just thinking it kind of makes sense that there was, in the 80s in wrestling, a barber character, because you look at the hair that people had in the ring back then, and yeah, they should have been mad and punching barbers.
When we were going through that phase, we're like, mullet's a thing.
Feathered mullets are even better.
Oh, yeah, because that's like extreme party in the back. A complete business up front.
That would make Doom so much better, as if the main character, Doom guy, had a feathered mullet. He could actually be like a French-Canadian hockey player. You could call him Doom Guy.
In the new Doom, the 2016 one, the guy's name is literally Doom Guy.
Yes, Doom Guy. It's French.
Doom Guy. I am Doom Guy. I'll shoot you with my shotgun.
Les puck is in les goal.
BFG. So, Doom makes no sense, but it's so fun.
It's fun. Each level is fun for about 5 minutes, and then you kill all the monsters, and then you spend 20 minutes running around the empty level looking for the switch that'll let you kill more monsters.
What if I told you you're bad at Doom?
What if I told you that I'm awesome and that game's just poorly designed?
Doom has fantastic level design. It's not their fault that you got lost. There's a map. There's a map in the game.
Yeah, it's so fun to just run around looking at the map all the time. It's like being a tourist in an empty city.
Look at the fancy man who's like, I don't enjoy Google Maps. You enjoy Google Maps, and you know you enjoy Google Maps.
I don't look at Google Maps recreationally, and I just think empty level, the 3D shooter, just doesn't quite have the same appeal as chainsawing monsters in half.
Yeah, it's actually a fair point. If you do get lost, you're pretty boned in one of those maps. The new Doom resolves this problem by you just follow the bodies. And by bodies, I mean the corpses you're about to make. And if you just follow those, it will take you to the end of the level.
You know, I mean, if you think about it, it was a really odd choice to design the original Doom the way they did, because it's not like people were playing, they're like, yeah, I'm going to shoot a imp with a shotgun and he's going to split in half and his guts are going to go everywhere. And then I'm going to carefully search out this hidden switch that's tucked behind a thing. And it's going to be so much fun. Like, it's just like two very different types of gameplay. You know, like one is like Myst and the other is like hardcore action.
I've played Doom so many times that I don't actually remember this feeling because it's so burned into my mind. I don't miss the switches anymore. It's just, you hit this, you keep going, you hit this, keep going.
You hit this, it opens a door on the other side of the level that you have to go find.
Yeah, all that, that's probably way younger me went through the pains of trying to find everything, but current me fired up Doom to play it before we had this chat, and I blew through the whole first game in, 45 minutes, and I felt good about me. It's like, I am using my time well as an adult. My kids are like, can we have a drink? I'm like, I'm playing Doom. You're on your own. You should have thought about wanting a drink before I started Doom.
Learn to survive. Now who's doomed?
That's Doom, I suppose. Bad business plan. Even though you're totally wrong, it's a great game.
It's a fine game.
I played it, me and my friend would play it on PlayStation 1.
Oh, the PlayStation 1 had the really, really nice intro where like the opening theme sounds almost Batman-y. If you've never played it, look this up on YouTube. Find the original PlayStation Doom opening. It's great. You know, it gets me so pumped up to do anything. If throwing back to our earlier talk about pro wrestlers, if I was a pro wrestler, I would want to come out to the Doom intro music for the PlayStation.
I would drop that music in here right now, but I don't feel like paying royalties.
Yeah.
So just imagine real hard if you've heard it before. And then after this show is done, you can go look it up.
Just imagine like the typical like heavy metal in like all the Doom stages crossed with like the theme from Tim Burton's Batman. And that's pretty much the Doom opening.
Me and a friend discovered that if you loaded Doom, started a level on the PlayStation, and then you took the disc out and you put it in another PlayStation, you could load into the level and then link your PlayStations together and play co-op. And then when someone hit the next level, it'd say, hey, we can't find the disc. Put in the disc. So the person you gave the disc would load level 2 and then hand the disc back. So only one person got music at a time. But we got to play Doom co-op, and that was pretty impressive.
You know, the songs are only about a minute long, so you can kind of keep tossing the disc back and forth. And yeah, now it's your turn to hear the minute of music.
But we were sitting next to each other, so it really didn't matter that much. And
I had a theory about the final boss of Doom is like kind of like a devil, like a half man, half goat, but he's got a rocket launcher hand, and I think he's called the Cyber Demon. You know, I kind of wondered if that was maybe born out of a typo, like they were talking about Star Wars, and the guy went to write Death Star, fingers crossed up, and he wrote Death Satyr, which is like a horseman, or like a goat man. A horseman would be a centaur. But yeah, he wrote Death Satyr, and he's like, I got our boss. I know what the final boss is going to be.
Maybe he was just into some weird, like, cyber sex chat rooms, and that was his username, Cyber Demon. And his friend's like, no, we're not putting that in the game. And he's like, but think about it. A robot that's also a demon. They're like, oh man, that is genius.
And his hand is a rocket launcher.
And he's got wiring for some reason. That would go... The hierarchy of hell, who probably already have bureaucracy problems, would say, you know what we should do is get some of these components that they're bringing down here to build these reactors, and we should graft them onto a demon. This seems like a really great idea. But that cyber demon will start smoking other enemies in that game.
Oh, yeah.
So he is probably a failed military project in hell. And how do you even go about manufacturing a hell cyber demon?
I don't know.
Or did the humans do this?
They probably did. They're like, this place is covered in demons. We gotta build something to protect us.
So they got a demon, they hacked it up some, attached weaponry to it, and they're like, this is fine. He'll be on our side. He's totally going to be happy with what we did. And then he wakes up and the first thing he does is shoot them. And someone had to be like, in hindsight, we shouldn't have loaded the rocket launcher.
There's another enemy in there that I don't know if it was in the original or if they introduced it for 2. I can't remember anymore, but it's like a big sphere with like a mouth in the middle of it, and I think one eye. And it's supposed to be scary or whatever. It can take a lot of damage, but it just looks so happy to see you. Like it's spitting fire or energy or something at you, and it just looks like it's like, hi, I want to be your friend. Follow you around, and it's like, oh, I feel like I'm murdering a hell puppy.
Yeah, it's got to be a hell dog. It's just like, oh, that's someone to play. Here's my ball. And in hell, a hot ball of plasma, that's just no big thing. You throw that back, and everyone's having a good time. You shoot that at a human, they melt, and then the catademon's just real sad, and he floats around looking for more people to play with.
It could be that this whole thing's just a giant misunderstanding, our inability to communicate with the demons, and they're actually super friendly. They're not even from hell. They're just from, like, a hot planet, and we're like, oh, it's hell! And they're just like, hey, let me throw some fire at you, and you can throw it back, because this is totally normal where I'm from, and... the flaming skulls just charge up. They're like, hi! Everything there in my mind is just going, hi! All the time.
I probably can tell you how this whole conflict started. We opened the portal, and we saw what we now have dubbed the Hot Planet. It's not actually hell. And the peaceful citizens of Hot Planet are just hanging out. But we're humans, so the first thing we say is, oh no, it's hell. Everyone, get guns. We have to stop hell. Without actually asking any questions or opening any sort of line of dialogue, we just marched into Hot Planet and started just shooting everybody. And they simply retaliated, and they're better at retaliating than we were.
And when guys got killed, they're just like, oh, don't worry, we'll bring them back to life for you. And you're like, oh no, a zombie, kill it again.
And Bert's like, oh, I'm alive. This is a miracle. And then Jim runs up and just shoots him in the head. And he's like, why, Jim? Why have you betrayed me?
Honestly, if we did open up a portal to hell, like the rest of the world would be like, oh no. And America would just be like, all right, let me get my guns. This is the best day.
They'd get on TV and say, we have opened a portal to hell. And someone in the South would be like, get me a Budweiser. We're going.
Hold my beer.
Someone would be on YouTube making screechy, funny noises about how they're at the hell portal. Then they'd get eaten live on their show, and everyone would be like, that's a pretty good goof.
You were mentioning earlier that they ported that to pretty much every piece of hardware imaginable. And I remember when it showed up on the Nintendo 64, it was beginning to show its age a little bit, because the way that the 3D was done in the Nintendo 64 version, it became very obvious that you were looking at flat sprites for the enemies. And they took on like a real like cardboardy, two-dimensional look to them, where you're like, that guy's got no depth. Like, if I ran around the side of him, he would be invisible, because he is completely flat. And it felt like you were just, like, fighting like a paper army, which was kind of a weird thing.
Yeah, the N64 did not handle that game very well. I think one thing that hurt that port really bad is the pacing and speed were altered. And when you slow Doom down, you've made a horrible mistake. What really gave it the sense of, this horrible thing was happening was just how fast you were moving. You didn't have time to process that exploding barrel. If you just walk around in a circle of, it's always facing you, no matter what you do.
Yeah, somebody working on the N64 version is like, This is a thinking man's game. We need to slow this down, let people really take it in, soak in the story, whatever the story is.
I view Doom as a real-time strategy game, so that's how we redid it for the N64.
Really what it is a meditation on the human condition. And warehouses.
N64 went real deep on those kind of things, didn't they? Let's explore who Banjo is. What do you say we say that's our conversation on Doom / other things?
Yes. I think we have said all that needed to be said about Doom at this point.
Unless we ever get in a conversation about the 2016 Doom, which would basically be just me frothing on my microphone trying to level praise at that game.
I looked into getting it, and I went to buy it on Steam, and a warning screen just popped up. It's like, this will melt your computer. You're playing on the cheapest computer that was available on Newegg that wasn't intended to be for games, and no, just no. Stick to your XCOM and leave Doom 3 to the big boys, or Doom 2016.
I played it on PS4, and it did a really good job of keeping that running at 60 frames at all times. There's just a button for ripping people's limbs apart. They dedicated a button to that.
Every game should have that button. You know, Mortal Kombat should have that button. Grand Theft Auto should have that button. Madden definitely needs that button.
Your player is low on health. Rip another player apart to get health orbs and ammo. Okay. This has been Cartridge Based Radio. I'm Donald.
I'm Brad.
And we will see you on the next week. Oh, before we go, gotta have a note. Our Facebook page exists.
Yes.
And you should go and push the little thumbs up thing.
Yes. And then I will just plaster your Facebook wall with all kinds of nonsense that you didn't want at all. But it's the best way to find out when we upload a new episode.
Please have your first message needs to be, "Hey dummies." That's all you have to write. And we will give you a like, because everyone likes a like. And if you could go over to Google Play and iTunes and maybe give us the appropriate level of stars you think we should have, that would be awesome.
Subscribe, write a glowing review. Those are things rate us. Those are things other podcasts I listen to tell their listeners to do. So if you want to do that for us.
You could even in your reviews just write, "Hey dummies," and we will enjoy that. Just call us dummies somewhere. Twitter. We don't have a Twitter yet. Oops.
No. Well, by the time this airs, I'm not doing it.
I'll look into that one. So, yes, it's just Cartridge Based Radio on Facebook.
Yes.
If you want to email us the phrase "Hey dummies," you can email us at cartridgebaseradio@gmail.com. One of us will look at it. I guess that's it. That's the show. I'll see you next week.
All right.
Run! Run!